Chosen one, this message is not for the average soul. If you're not marked by the Most High, if you haven't felt the stirring in your spirit or the weight of your calling, then I'll be honest. This video isn't for you. But if you've been seeing repeating numbers like 444, 777, or 333, if you've been having prophetic dreams, feeling spiritual encounters that no one else around you seems to notice, then sit down. Don't scroll. Don't click off. This is your divine message, and it's coming at the exact moment it was supposed to reach you. Let me ask you directly, have you been feeling distant from God, yet somehow He keeps showing up in subtle ways? Through angelic visitations, through gut-wrenching dreams, through moments that shake your spirit in the quiet of night. That's not your imagination. That's the call. But here's the truth. You've been ignoring Him, and if you don't start listening, you're going to regret it. Chosen one, you were never meant to live an ordinary life. That spiritual pressure you feel, that's because you're out of alignment. It's time to return. It's time to obey. It's time to walk in the fullness of your assignment. If this is already speaking to your soul, comment 333 if you know this message is for you, and 777 if you've been sensing God trying to reach you lately. Like, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell, and share this with another chosen one. Let's begin. Signs you've been ignoring God's call. Chosen one. The call of God rarely comes with loud thunder or flashing lights. It begins subtly, quietly, like a whisper in your spirit that refuses to go away. But many of you have been missing it, overlooking it, or worse, dismissing it entirely. And not because you're rebellious, but because you're distracted. But understand this. Distraction is one of the enemy's most dangerous weapons. If he can't destroy you, he'll keep you busy, tired, and numb until you miss your moment. Let's talk about the signs. First, those repeating numbers you've been seeing, 111, 444, 333, 777. Those aren't just coincidences. They are spiritual codes, markers that heaven is trying to get your attention. When you see them, your spirit is being prompted to pay attention. But what do? You roll your eyes, say, "Oh, that's weird," and move on. Yet in the spirit realm, that was an angelic visitation. That number was tied to a moment where heaven was waiting for your agreement, your obedience. Some of you feel heavy emotionally and can't explain it. You cry in silence, feel distant from people, or get uneasy in places you once felt comfortable. You call it depression or anxiety, but it's not always that. Sometimes it's the weight of your assignment pressing on your soul. It's God pulling you away from what you've outgrown. But because it's uncomfortable, you cling to what's familiar. Have you felt like people are being removed from your life? Suddenly, relationships are falling apart, friends are drifting, environments feel toxic. That's not bad luck. That's divine pruning. God is setting you apart. But instead of embracing it, you're trying to glue together what God is tearing apart. That resistance is costing you. Another major sign: prophetic dreams. Dreams where you see yourself flying, drowning, climbing, giving birth, or being chased. These are not just dreams. They are symbolic spiritual encounters. Dreams are how God speaks to those who are too busy to hear Him in the waking world. Some of you dream of things that later come to pass, and still you don't pay attention. You say, "That's just weird," when heaven is screaming, "Wake up!" When you ignore these dreams, you're ignoring divine messages crafted for your destiny. Some of you even feel fear after waking. That's your spirit being disturbed because you haven't taken the dream seriously. You've ignored too many messages. You've skipped too many signs. And now you wonder why you feel spiritually lost. You also experience spiritual tension around certain people. You walk into a room and feel like something is wrong, but everyone else is fine. That's discernment. That's God warning you. Your spirit senses what your eyes can't see. But if you don't trust it, you'll keep stepping into spiritual traps with smiling faces. You see, chosen one, the signs are all around you. They've always been there. You just weren't trained to recognize them. But that changes now. From this moment forward, you are no longer allowed to call these divine interactions random. From now on, you will start asking, God, what are you trying to show me? It's time to take note of the patterns. Keep a journal. Write down your dreams. Write down your thoughts after prayer. Revisit those moments when something in your spirit felt off and you didn't listen. Because now the call is louder. The consequences are heavier, and the time for spiritual laziness is over. Understand this, God's voice doesn't always sound like a voice. Sometimes it's a sudden urge to leave a place. Sometimes it's a heavy silence after a conversation. Sometimes it's a random thought that won't go away. That's not your mind playing tricks. That's a divine message trying to make its way through. And chosen one. Here's a hard truth. Every time you ignore God's promptings, you teach yourself how to miss Him. And the more you miss Him, the more normal it becomes to live without direction. That's not the life you were chosen for. You weren't called to live blind. You were called to walk in clarity, purpose, and power. You've seen the signs. You've felt the pull. You've had the dreams. You've walked away from spiritual encounters thinking they were just weird. But now you know better. And because you know better, you must respond differently. If this part is speaking to your spirit right now, comment 777 if you've experienced these signs and now realize you've been ignoring them. Let's build awareness together. Because after today, you will no longer ignore what heaven is trying to reveal. You're going to listen. You're going to align. You're going to obey. Because to ignore God is to reject your own future. And I promise you, that regret is not worth it. The cost of ignoring divine messages. Chosen one, you must understand something very clearly. Every time you ignore a divine message, you delay your destiny. This is not about missing out on small blessings. This is about forfeiting entire seasons of growth, favor, and divine alignment. God does not speak without purpose. When He sends a word, whether through a prophetic dream, an angelic visitation, or a spiritual encounter, that word is meant to shift your direction and protect your future. But when you ignore it, you don't just move on, you step out of His covering. Many of you are trapped in repetitive cycles right now, same struggles, same relationships, same emotional torment. And it's not because you're cursed, it's because you're disobedient. You were shown the warning, but you didn't listen. You were told to leave, but you stayed. You were urged to cut that tie, but you clung to it. And now you're reaping the confusion that comes from ignoring God's voice. Let me tell you something real. God is loving, yes, but He is also just. He is patient, but He is not passive. If you continually disregard His direction, He will allow you to feel the full consequence of your own choices, not to punish you, but to teach you. Because sometimes the only way the chosen one learns is through loss. Have you ever asked yourself, why did I go through that pain? Or, why did that door shut so harshly? The answer is simple. You missed the instruction. That no wasn't sudden. It was final. But before it ever reached that point, you were shown signs. The unease, the dream, the confirmation, the repeated message, but because it didn't look the way you expected, you brushed it off. And now you're learning the hard way that God doesn't beg, He reveals. When you ignore divine messages, you're also telling heaven I know better than you. That's spiritual pride, and pride always leads to a fall. Just ask Jonah, just ask Saul, just ask anyone in Scripture who ignored God's voice. The fall may not happen immediately, but trust me, it always comes. And when it does, it brings regret, the kind that sits in your chest and whispers, "You knew better." Some of you are praying for clarity while ignoring the clarity that was already given. You ask for peace while staying in the very environments God told you to leave. You want acceleration while refusing to take the steps He showed you in your dreams. That's not a lack of blessing. That's a lack of obedience. And here's the dangerous part. The more you ignore God, the harder it becomes to hear Him. Your spirit becomes dull. Your discernment gets clouded. What once made you uncomfortable now feels normal, and that's exactly where the enemy wants you, desensitized and spiritually numb. Chosen one, the cost of ignoring divine messages is not just delay, it's distortion. Your vision gets blurred, your purpose starts to feel confusing, and you begin to question what God already confirmed. Why? Because you traded revelation for comfort. You were warned, but comfort kept you in the wrong place, and now discomfort is trying to drive you out. Let me remind you, prophetic dreams are not entertainment. Angelic visitations are not fairy tales. Spiritual encounters are not mental tricks. They are sacred communications from the Most High. You were chosen to receive them because your assignment requires deeper direction. But when you act like they mean nothing, you insult the very one who called you. How many blessings have you missed because you hesitated? How many divine connections have you lost because you second-guessed your spirit? How many times did God speak and you responded with silence? That silence is costing you. That delay is expensive. But here's the grace. If you're reading this now, if this message is reaching your spirit, it's not too late. There is still time to realign. There is still mercy available. But you must respond, not tomorrow, not later, now, because God will not keep sending the same message forever. Eventually the window closes, and when it does, you'll wish you had moved when you felt the nudge. You'll wish you had prayed when the dream came. You'll wish you had obeyed when the warning sounded. But the wish won't open the door, only obedience will. Chosen one, don't pay the price of spiritual deafness. Don't live with the weight of what could have been. When heaven speaks, the wise respond. The faithful act. The chosen listen. Because to ignore God is to step out of the covering you desperately need in the battles ahead. Listen now, or regret later. The choice is always yours. The angelic visitation that changed everything. Chosen one, let me speak plainly. Angelic visitations are real. This isn't superstition. This isn't fantasy. It is one of the most sacred and personal ways heaven reaches out to the chosen. And if you've experienced one, whether you recognized it or not, your life was never meant to remain the same afterward. Many of you think angels only appear with wings, glowing robes, or a booming voice from the sky, but that's not always how it works. In fact, some of the most powerful angelic encounters happen in complete silence, in still moments, or even through strangers sent for a specific divine purpose. Hebrews 13:2 tells us clearly, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." That means the person who stopped you at the store and gave you a word that pierced your soul may not have been just a person. That sudden help when no one else knew your situation, that wasn't luck. That was divine intervention. But here's the issue. Many chosen ones ignore the visitation because they're looking for the spectacular. They miss the sacred because they expect the dramatic. God often sends his angels in the most unassuming forms, to test your discernment, to gauge your readiness. When you ignore the message they carry, you don't just reject help, you reject alignment. Have you ever been comforted at your lowest moment in a way you couldn't explain? Felt a warm presence around you during prayer? Heard a voice warning you right before making a wrong turn, physically or spiritually? These are not just passing sensations. These are moments of spiritual encounter, and often they are the presence of angels dispatched on assignment to guide, protect, or correct. There are moments in your life, chosen one, where everything shifts after an angelic visitation. You begin to feel things more deeply, your dreams intensify, your discernment sharpens. You may even experience sudden isolation, not because something is wrong, but because something sacred just happened. You've been marked, separated, elevated. And after such a visitation, you are no longer allowed to live casually. But here's the danger. When you don't recognize the moment for what it is, you return to normal, as if nothing happened. And that's the tragedy. Not that God didn't speak, but that you didn't respond. Some of you were visited and given a divine message, but because it came in a form you weren't trained to recognize, you kept living like it was just another day. And now you wonder why your spirit feels disconnected. Angels are not sent for entertainment. They are sent for assignment. Their visitation comes with a spiritual instruction, even if it's unspoken. To ignore them is to reject not only the message, but the momentum heaven was trying to release into your life. One visitation can alter your entire direction. One moment of obedience can open a door that had been shut for years. And chosen one, don't think for a moment that angelic encounters are reserved for biblical times. We are in the days where heaven is moving more actively on earth, especially for those who carry spiritual responsibility. The warfare is heavier, the attacks are stronger, and the need for divine guidance is urgent. That's why angels are visiting more frequently. You may feel like you're just going through a rough patch, but in the spirit, you're being surrounded, protected, and positioned. Some of you have been saved from accidents you should not have survived. Others were about to make a choice that would have ruined your life. But something invisible stopped you. That's angelic intervention. That's grace in action. But here's the question. Did you honor the moment, or did you just move on? If you've ever felt like something stepped in and protected you, like something unseen rearranged your life, take a moment right now to reflect. Comment 444 if you believe you've had an angelic visitation and didn't recognize it until now. Don't take it lightly. Acknowledge the sacred. Because from this point forward, when an angel appears, whether in the natural or in the spirit, you will know. You will recognize the shift. You will listen for the instruction, because now you are awake. And when the chosen one is awake, heaven can finally move freely in your life. Prophetic dreams, why you must start listening. Chosen one, your dreams are not ordinary, never have been, never will be. You were born with a spiritual antenna, a sensitivity to the unseen, and your sleep is one of the most sacred times when God delivers divine messages to you. But the tragedy is this: many chosen ones keep waking up and treating holy instructions like random images. They call powerful spiritual downloads just a dream, and that ignorance is costing them clarity, direction, and protection. Listen carefully. Prophetic dreams are not dreams. They are spiritual experiences. They're visions, warnings, revelations, and confirmations wrapped in symbolic language. God chooses to speak to you in dreams because your waking life is often too loud, too distracted, and too crowded to hear him clearly. So he waits until your flesh is asleep, and then your spirit receives. But when you rise and forget what he showed you, you risk stepping into a day he tried to prepare you for, unarmed and unaware. Have you dreamed of water, storms, snakes, flying, giving birth, being chased, falling? All of these are spiritual symbols, not random visuals. Water may represent cleansing or emotional overflow. Snakes could be deception or hidden danger. Flying often symbolizes elevation or spiritual freedom. And giving birth? That means something is being birthed in your life. A purpose, a project, a breakthrough. These are divine messages, coded instructions from the Most High to guide your next move. But if you treat them like nonsense, you walk blindly into battles you were warned about in the night. Some of your dreams are direct, people talking to you with specific messages, warnings about who to trust, where to go, what to avoid. That's prophecy. That's spiritual foresight. And chosen one, it's your responsibility to take them seriously. Keep a dream journal. Write them down immediately upon waking. Because these dreams are not just for insight, they are often assignments. And when ignored, the consequences can be severe. Some of you have dreamed of people who later showed their true colors. That was God preparing you. Some of you have dreamed of disaster, only to see something close to it unfold. That was your spirit receiving early warning. Some of you keep dreaming about the same place, the same person, the same scenario. That's not a glitch. That's God repeating a message because you haven't responded yet. There are also spiritual encounters in dreams, moments when you feel a presence in the dream that brings peace, clarity, or correction. That may have been an angel. That may have been the Holy Spirit. That may have been a divine visitation to align your soul. But when you wake up and say, "That was weird," instead of asking, "God, what were you showing me?" you miss the point entirely. Some chosen ones even experience demonic attacks in dreams, nightmares, sleep paralysis, being chased or attacked. Those are signs that you are a threat in the spirit realm. The enemy sees who you are, even when you don't, and his goal is to tire your spirit through fear. But take this as confirmation. You are dangerous to darkness, and your dreams are proof of the war over your destiny. But don't just fear these moments, fight through them. Wake up and pray. Declare what you saw. Ask for interpretation. Seek wisdom. Dreams are not passive. They require response. Every time you ignore a warning dream, you leave a door open for trouble. Every time you forget a message, you lose an opportunity to walk in divine precision. And here's what you must remember, chosen one. Not all dreams are from God. Some come from your soul, others from warfare. That's why discernment is crucial. Learn to separate the noise from the voice. Pay attention to how the dream made you feel, what stood out, and whether it aligns with what God has already been revealing in your waking life. The more you pray for understanding, the clearer the meanings will become. Some of you are asking God for signs, and He's sending them in your sleep. You're asking for answers, and they're showing up in your night visions. But because you're not trained to recognize prophetic dreams, you wake up spiritually blind. That stops now. From this moment forward, you must treat your dreams as sacred ground. Write them, pray over them, Ask God, "What are you showing me?" And then act. Because there is no such thing as just a dream when you are chosen. God doesn't waste words. He doesn't give visions for entertainment. When He speaks, it's for purpose. And if He's speaking to you in dreams, it's because He trusts your spirit to receive. That's an honor and a responsibility. So I ask you, chosen one, are you ready to start listening while you sleep? Are you ready to walk into each day with the knowledge you were given the night before? Because your prophetic dreams are blueprints, instructions, warnings, strategies. The sooner you take them seriously, the faster you will walk into alignment with what heaven has written about you. Your dreams have always mattered. It's time you start treating them like it. Why spiritual encounters are becoming more intense for you. Chosen one, you're not going crazy. You're awakening. The spiritual encounters you've been experiencing, the chills, the whispers, the sudden tears, the overwhelming peace, the unexplained heaviness. They are not your imagination. They are signs that your spiritual senses are being heightened. The closer you get to your divine assignment, the more heaven and hell take notice. And that's why your spiritual encounters are becoming more intense. You've likely noticed it by now. Your sensitivity is increasing. You feel things others don't. You walk into a room and sense tension or peace before anyone speaks. You wake up with burdens that aren't yours. You cry during prayer and don't know why. You hear things in your spirit while everything around you is silent. These are not random experiences. They are confirmations that your spirit is no longer asleep. You are being trained to discern, to feel, and to receive. The reason it's intensifying is because God is preparing you for greater responsibility. You cannot walk in spiritual authority if you remain numb to the spiritual realm. Every spiritual encounter, whether gentle or jarring, is shaping your ability to lead, to intercede, and to obey. You weren't chosen to walk blindly. You were chosen to walk with eyes open in the unseen world. Let's be clear. Not all spiritual encounters will feel comfortable. Some will shake you. Some will disturb you. Some may even come with oppression or warfare. That doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're marked. It means you've been seen by both light and darkness, and now the battle over your obedience has begun. When the enemy knows your identity, he intensifies his efforts to confuse you, distract you, and cause you to question what you're experiencing. But here's the truth. You're not under attack because you're weak. You're under attack because you're a threat. And these spiritual encounters are not to harm you. They're to remind you who you are in the kingdom. Every attack is a signal that you carry something powerful. And every encounter is a reminder that you are not alone. Have you ever woken up from a deep sleep feeling like someone was watching you? That wasn't just anxiety. That was a spiritual atmosphere being revealed. Have your electronics ever glitched during prayer or deep thought? Have lights flickered when you began to speak truth aloud? That's not just technology. That's the veil between realms, responding to your alignment. The atmosphere knows when the chosen one speaks. Some of you are starting to feel God's presence more tangibly, like a weight in the room, like warmth over your skin, like a holy stillness that demands silence. That's not emotion. That's encounter. And every time you ignore it, you miss a moment of divine communion. Others are beginning to hear the voice of God more clearly, not always audible, but deep. A thought that didn't come from you, a sentence that interrupts your logic, a conviction that shakes your soul. That's the voice of the Most High. He is calling you into deeper connection. And what about those who are experiencing spiritual encounters in their sleep? You're waking up at 3 a.m., restless, with visions or phrases stuck in your mind. That's not insomnia. That's a divine appointment. God often calls his chosen ones in the early hours when the noise of the world is silent and the heavens are open. That moment is not for scrolling. It's for seeking. But here's the issue. Many of you are still trying to explain away the supernatural. You're still saying, maybe I imagined it, or that was just my mind. But why is it only happening now? Why is it only getting stronger as you draw closer to purpose? It's because heaven is pressing in. It's because you've matured to a level where you can be trusted with the weight of spiritual truth. You're being shown more because you're being called to do more. And chosen one, let's not ignore this. The enemy is also aware. So don't be surprised if you begin to sense demonic energy trying to disrupt your atmosphere. Spiritual encounters come from both realms. That's why discernment is crucial. You must test every spirit. Don't let everything you experience in the spirit realm pass unchecked. Ask God, is this from you? You'll know by the peace it carries, the clarity it brings, and the fruit it produces. But don't let fear stop you. Fear is the enemy's currency. He wants you to be afraid of what is holy, so you'll stay spiritually ignorant. He wants you to shut down your gifts, so you won't walk in power. But you were never called to fear the spiritual realm. You were called to govern it. You were never meant to run from encounters. You were chosen to interpret, navigate, and command them. So next time you feel that heaviness in prayer, pause and listen. Next time you sense something shifting around you, don't panic, discern. Next time you have a dream that shakes you to the core, don't forget it. Seek understanding. Because spiritual encounters are not distractions. They are divine strategies being revealed to you in real time. You're not imagining it, you're awakening. And with that awakening comes a new level of responsibility. You must stay spiritually clean. You must guard your environment. You must pray with purpose. And most importantly, you must never ignore the presence of the Most High when He chooses to come close. Because some encounters don't come twice. The role of the chosen one in this generation. Chosen one, you were not born into this generation by accident. You are not here just to survive, pay bills, post pictures, and repeat the cycle. You are here on assignment. You were chosen by God to carry a weight that others cannot bear, to walk a path that others fear, and to speak truth in a time where truth has become offensive. You are not normal, and you were never meant to be. This generation is asleep, spiritually numb, spiritually deaf. We are living in a time of confusion, rebellion, deception, and pride. People chase fame, pleasure, and instant gratification. They reject conviction, they mock holiness. And yet, here you are, watching this, still sensitive, still searching, still feeling that pull in your soul that you can't ignore. That's proof you are different. That's proof you've been set apart. The role of a chosen one in this generation is not to blend in. It is to stand out. Not for attention, but for alignment. You are here to disturb what is comfortable, expose what is hidden, and bring light into dark spaces. But listen to me. Your assignment will cost you. You will lose friends. You will be misunderstood. You will feel isolated. And you will often question why you were called. But let me tell you now, the assignment is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be eternal. You are a spiritual warrior, not a spectator. While others are sleeping through life, you are called to intercede, to discern, and to walk in revelation. You see what others ignore. You hear what others silence. You feel what others numb out. And that is not a burden. That is a gift. The enemy wants you to think something is wrong with you. He wants you to believe you're too sensitive, too intense, too serious. But in truth, you're exactly who God needs in this hour. The Most High is raising up chosen ones in every nation, every city, every platform. Not perfect people, not religious performers, but real, raw, awakened souls who carry His voice, His vision, and His vengeance against darkness. You were born for such a time as this. And the shaking you've been going through, that's just God stripping everything that cannot come with you into your next dimension. This generation needs truth, but they don't want it. They want watered-down messages, soft-spoken lies, and spiritual sedation. But God has put a fire in your bones, and no matter how hard you try to stay silent, you can't. That's the role of the chosen one. To speak what others are afraid to say, to shine when others shrink, to walk with God even when it feels like you're walking alone. You were sent to break generational curses, to speak healing over bloodlines, to tear down spiritual altars of witchcraft, lust, pride, and confusion. You were sent to shift atmospheres, not entertain them. Your presence is a disruption. Your voice is a weapon. Your life is a sermon. People may not like you, but their spirit respects you, even if their mind rejects you. You carry the authority of heaven. Not because of who you are, but because of who sent you. And that means when you step into a room, things shift. Demons notice, energies react, spirits scatter, but you've been walking around like you're weak, unsure, and uncertain. That ends today. You are the bridge between realms, the carrier of light, the walking temple, the living witness that God is still moving. You cannot afford to keep living like your life is yours, but because it's not. You were purchased with a purpose, and your obedience is not just about you. It's about the souls tied to your assignment. Chosen one, this world is waiting for your yes. There are people who will never be free until you speak. There are regions that won't shift until you pray. There are battles that won't be won until you show up. And that's why your life has been under attack. Because the enemy fears the moment you realize just how powerful you really are. This generation needs your voice, not a copy of someone else's. Your voice, pure, unapologetic, holy. You don't need a title. You don't need approval. You don't need a stage. All you need is God's backing, and you already have it. He's waiting on your full surrender. The role of the chosen one is not for the faint of heart. It is for the spiritually elite, for those who are willing to sacrifice comfort for calling, who are willing to walk through the fire because they know the flame will not consume them, it will refine them. So, the next time you feel like quitting, remember this: you were chosen for this generation, not to be accepted by it, but to change it. You were not sent to entertain darkness. You were sent to overthrow it. You don't need their applause. You need God's confirmation. And if He called you, He will keep you. Wake up, warrior. Your generation is waiting, aligning yourself to hear from God daily. Chosen one. Hearing from God is not a gift reserved for prophets or preachers. It's a necessity for anyone walking in divine purpose. You were never meant to live off second-hand revelation. You were created to receive fresh instruction straight from the throne room. But here's the truth. If your life is filled with noise, distraction, and confusion, you will always struggle to hear clearly. God speaks daily, but only to those who are aligned. To hear God, you must first learn to be still. The world is loud. Social media, opinions, constant movement, all of it clogs the channel between you and heaven. But God doesn't compete with chaos. He speaks in silence. He whispers to those who are willing to sit with Him, not just visit Him once a week. You want to hear Him more? Learn to be still more. That's where clarity lives. Prayer is not just talking, it's listening. Many of you pray, but never pause to receive. You say your words, you list your problems, and then you get up and move on. That's not communication, that's venting. But true alignment comes when you speak, and then wait. God answers. Sometimes through a thought, sometimes through a word, a verse, or even a sudden knowing in your spirit. You must train your ear to listen, and that takes discipline. Another key is purity. If your heart is full of unforgiveness, jealousy, rebellion, or pride, it will distort what you hear. The frequency of heaven requires a clean vessel. That's why fasting, repentance, and holiness are not religious rituals. They are tools to sharpen your spiritual senses. A chosen one must guard their vessel with intention, not out of fear, but because you can't afford to miss the next instruction. Too much is on the line. Your environment also matters. If you are constantly surrounded by chaos, gossip, negativity, or unclean spirits, it will become nearly impossible to discern the voice of God. You must protect your atmosphere like your life depends on it, because it does. Clean your space, play worship, shut doors that need to stay closed, and don't apologize for doing it. When the atmosphere is pure, revelation flows. Also, be aware that God doesn't always speak in words. He speaks in promptings, in divine messages, in moments that stir your spirit. You'll feel led to text someone, to avoid a place, to pray out of nowhere. That's Him. That's divine alignment. Don't second guess it. Move when He nudges you. Every act of obedience trains your ear to hear more clearly the next time. And yes, He speaks through His word. The Bible is not just a book. It's a spiritual portal. Open it daily, not religiously, but with expectation. There are verses waiting to answer your deepest questions, to confirm your dreams, to warn you of danger. You say God is silent, but your Bible is closed. Open it, and He will speak. Remember this, hearing from God is not about being super spiritual. It's about being available in stillness, available in purity, available in obedience. When you live aligned, the voice of God becomes your daily bread, not an occasional treat. So, chosen one, the question isn't, is God speaking? The real question is, are you in position to hear Him? Are you willing to turn off the noise, to purify your heart, to wait on the whisper? Because when you do, something shifts. You walk in confidence. You avoid unnecessary pain. You move with precision. And most importantly, you stay in the center of God's will. This is your reminder. Real power doesn't come from titles or platforms. It comes from hearing Him clearly and consistently. And now, you know how to align yourself to do just that. This is your final warning before regret. Chosen one. This is not just another message. This is your final warning, not from me, but from the Spirit of the living God. You've heard the signs. You've felt the pull. You've received the dreams. You've had the angelic encounters. You've been given the divine messages. And yet, you're still delaying, still doubting, still dancing between purpose and comfort. But let me be clear. You are running out of time. God is merciful, yes. He's patient, yes. But He's also strategic. And when He speaks, He expects a response. Delay is disobedience. You may think you have more time, but in the spirit realm there are windows of destiny. And when those windows close, they don't always reopen. The moment you're in right now, it is sacred, it is aligned, it is heaven-sent. And if you ignore this moment again, you will regret it. There is a level of divine regret that's heavier than pain. It's the weight of knowing you could have moved but didn't. The burden of realizing you were warned but you stayed still. Many chosen ones live with silent torment, not because of what happened to them, but because of what they ignored when God tried to prepare them. That regret, it breaks more than hearts. It breaks alignment. You've been asking for a sign. This is it. You've been asking for confirmation. Here it is. Heaven is shouting, move now. Not tomorrow. Not when it feels safe. not when people approve. Now. The spiritual world doesn't wait on human comfort. When God opens a door, you either walk through it or you miss it. Some of you have been standing at the edge of your breakthrough for years, but fear kept you paralyzed. And now you're watching others walk into what was supposed to be yours. That's not a coincidence. That's the consequence of delay. You were chosen, yes, but being chosen means nothing if you don't respond. This is your spiritual deadline, and I don't say that to scare you, I say it to wake you up. You've been asleep far too long. You've allowed doubt, distraction, and fear to numb your obedience. But heaven doesn't honor excuses. Heaven honors obedience. You keep saying you're waiting on God, but God has been waiting on you. Chosen one, the world is shifting. The battle is intensifying, and you cannot afford to play small anymore. Every moment you spend hesitating is a moment the enemy uses to attack your purpose. You're not just delaying your blessing, you're delaying the lives connected to your assignment. There are souls waiting on your yes. There are territories waiting on your voice. There are generations waiting on your obedience. And what happens if you ignore this call again? You'll begin to feel the weight of misalignment. Confusion will increase. Clarity will vanish. Peace will become rare. You'll start to question everything, not because God left you, but because you refused to go where He was leading. That's what regret feels like. A soul haunted by what it missed. But the grace in this moment is this: you still have time. If you're reading this, watching this, feeling this deep in your spirit, it's not too late. You can still respond. You can still align. But you cannot delay another day. You are not being warned because God wants to harm you. You are being warned because He wants to position you. And if you listen now, everything can shift. So ask yourself, will you obey this time? Will you move when He says move? Will you break the cycle of delay before it breaks you? Because this is not just another word. This is your final invitation before the shift begins. Heed the call or face the consequence. Chosen. 1. By now, your spirit knows the truth. You are not watching this by accident. You are not reading these words just because you're curious. This is not entertainment. This is a divine intervention, a sacred moment where heaven has stopped everything to reach you. God is not asking anymore. He is calling, and this time you must answer. You've been warned. You've been stirred. You've been reminded of the dreams, the spiritual encounters, the angelic visitations, and the divine messages. And now you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to alignment, obedience, breakthrough, and peace. The other leads to regret, delay, and spiritual silence. No more middle ground. No more, I'll wait until the time is right. The time is now. It has always been now. You are not ordinary. You were never meant to live passively, chasing comfort while heaven holds your blueprint. Your voice carries weight in the spirit. Your prayers shift realms. Your presence shakes darkness. But none of it matters if you don't obey. Heaven only backs those who respond. And the longer you ignore the call, the louder the consequences become. So, chosen one, this is it. This is your moment to fully surrender. Not halfway, not eventually. Now. This is your invitation to realign, to go deeper, to repent for every ignored instruction and declare, no more running. If this message pierced your soul, comment 444 right now as a sign to heaven that you accept the call. Let the spiritual realm know you're done pretending not to hear. You're done delaying. You're ready to walk in full obedience, no matter the cost. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell, and share this video with someone else who needs this same awakening. Don't keep this light to yourself. You are a carrier of fire. Remember, you will never regret obeying God, but you will deeply regret what you lose when you ignore Him. The door is still open, but it won't be forever. Heed the call or face the consequence. The choice is now yours.